Welcome back. This is the Worth Wellness Podcast, and you've tuned in for episode number 14. I'm your host, Erika Wirth, and I am on a mission to help you cultivate a daily experience of kindness and connection with your body through body partnership. Today, you get to listen into a conversation my husband and I have together to discuss all things the power of a healing mindset. We are both currently learning how mindset is that element you can own when so much feels out of control. How in the face of a lot of external stressors, it can either become the source of peace and serenity or further perpetuate chaos and pain. We're going to talk about how to avoid getting stuck in the trap and that feedback loop of negative thinking and living, and why it's important to consider what you might need to shed that isn't serving you and is standing in the way of your transformation, whether that's actions or mindset. What really matters when you're looking to make these changes is the consistency in building this healing mindset. And showing up every day really is as important as the end result you're desiring. When you begin to embrace a lifestyle where healing is a priority, you unlock the superpower of body wisdom. I hope you enjoy tuning into this episode and hearing kind of in real time what my husband and I are learning and discovering on the daily. It was fun to record it for you. So without any further ado, let's get right to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Worth Wellness Podcast. And I wanted to say that for a long time. We just finished some very powerful exercises. We became lions, and then we went on a journey of power poses. It felt like charades, but it was really cool. So anyway, today we are coming to you free scripted, freestyle podcast, which makes my beautiful wife here a little, how do you say, not excited? How do you feel?
Yeah, it's uncharted territory, having no plan or list necessarily. I mean, we have a plan, loose plan.
Yeah, we have a loose plan. This is more how I roll. I like the more like unscripted, unrehearsed, like whatever comes out, and hope for the best. No, I'm just kidding. Everything's got to have some sort of a plan, which we do have. So, how was your day today?
Pretty good. Yeah, we're here today to talk to you guys about the healing mindset, and I feel like that's super relevant. It's something I'm always mindful of is mindset, and that can really set the tone for your day. So, have been thinking a lot about that today.
Yeah. So, I guess I'm going to start off with the first question to you. When did you start adapting this whole healing mindset? Because I know you have started applying that a lot sooner before than I have. And so I'm just curious, like, when did you start tweaking things in your own mind, and how did that come about?
Well, I think oftentimes when you find yourself in environments and situations that maybe are higher stress and aren't necessarily changing immediately or anytime soon, you start to really ask the questions like, okay, if I can't change my situation immediately, whether that's a physical illness or, family or work stress or whatever, or a combination of all of the above, you're almost out of desperation trying to find something accessible to you that you can own. And I think one of the first things that we can own is our mindset. And so I would say, like, especially in the last 6 months, and even just more recently in, 2020 and all the craziness going on, like, your mindset can either be something that, how do I say, is a source of peace and serenity that you can find within your mindset, or it can be a source of chaos and pain. And I think I've lived in a long time where my mind was a source of chaos and pain, and it still is sometimes, but I'm learning now how to tap into the idea that your mind doesn't have to be a scary place. Like, it could be a place of peace and of grounding that you could always go back to regardless of what situation you're in. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. We were discussing a little bit ago about our personalities and how when we decide we're going to do something, there's no half in, half out. We're either all in or all out. And so it's really interesting because I didn't realize that about myself. Like, when I go into something, I'm going to go into it full force. And so, when I've always started my diets, I'm legitimately excited about them. I'm legitimately like pumped up, ready to go. I'm like gung ho. It's just like, yes. But then, as we talked about in the previous podcast, the why are you doing this? I'm doing it for someone else. I'm kind of, I'm not really, my mindset's not there. And so this time I changed from the, I need to do something. I need to lose weight. I need to do that. Because in this sense, needs don't happen. You have to want it. So when I want to lose weight, when I want to be healthy, when I want this, when I make it a priority, that takes precedent over the need of it. And so that forces me into a different mindset of, I'm going to make this happen. What do I have to do to make it happen? And so that is a really powerful statement, because now you're taking ownership of, okay, I'm taking this and I'm going to do it. How can I be successful? And that's why you surround yourself with people that are uplifting and not going to be talking trash to you the whole time, saying, oh, well, you don't need to lose the weight. You don't need to do that. And it's just really important that you do that. And so as I jumped into this, I started doing more self-talk, positive talk. If I found myself talking negatively, I'd bump up into, like, I got to say 3 good things about myself. And that lifts me up. And so,
yeah, I think too, that's a really good point, talking about, needing to and wanting to, and like the motivators for change and mindset. And it's like, even when it comes to changing your mindset, in positive affirmations, it's like, oh, I need to be positive. Like, I need to say these things about myself because that's what you're supposed to do or whatever. Yeah. Or do you actually want to feel better? And I think that's the thing too, of like, honestly, sometimes we get really stuck in the comfort of misery and in the comfort of negativity because it's familiar. Like, maybe we've lived so negative, like, for so long, and so aware of the negative as kind of a like defense mechanism. Yeah. And so to actually, like, it's actually more scary to embrace this idea that we could turn it around and start to see growth opportunities and start to see, like, oh, like maybe there is some way I can use this experience to serve me. And then, like you were saying too about, positive affirmations or whatever, like, I actually do want to feel differently about myself. And so that's why I'm doing it. Not because I need to, but because I want to feel different. I want to see my life different. I don't want to wake up dreading another day in my body. Like, I want to feel strong and confident and powerful in my body. And so what are the things that help me do that? So I liked what you said about that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that whole thing when you're eating unhealthy and you're sick, but you don't know that you're sick until you get out of that. It's the same thing with your mindset. You don't know how bad your mindset is until you start addressing those things. And starting a weight loss journey, and that's what it starts off as, but you start to uncover things that you haven't dealt with in your past that are going to come up and you have to deal with. And so all of a sudden you're facing things, and your coping mechanism was food. That was mine. My pain, I coped with food. It gave me comfort. And so when you take that away, all of a sudden it starts bringing emotions. And like, as a guy, I'm like, I'm like, I say this very mildly, but I've shed a tear or two, and I'm not a huge crier. And so it's really, really interesting that this journey would bring up all that. So when we're talking about weight loss and getting healthy, we're talking about everything: nutrition and spiritual, mental, and physical, all of this stuff.
Yeah. And just to jump in there for a second, if weight loss isn't your thing, there might still be other things you need to shed. Mm-hmm. Like, weight loss hasn't been my thing, but there's a lot of stuff I need to shed and have needed to shed. And so I feel like in that way, this is the same principles can apply, because there is this like releasing of a lot of toxic, whether that's thinking or behaviors or lifestyle habit, mm-hmm. Patterns and things that need to be released or let go of.
Yeah. And so that's why, number one thing we talked about last time was the why. Why are you doing this? And we identified you have to want to do it, and you have to find your why. And once you do that, then you start on your journey. And so for me, I'm an all-in guy. I'm like, okay, I'm cutting out everything. No sugar, no sodas. I didn't really drink too many sodas. No pizza, none of that. And so mentally, that's extremely hard for me. And I found myself getting angry and having anxiety the first few weeks, like when my son would be gone for the weekend and we would have a date night. I would get very angry because, like, this is the time where I'm supposed to eat crappy food. Why though? What? And so I would force myself to eat healthy food, and I felt better afterwards. And so my journey, I'm now a month and a half in, and it has been incredible. Now, the key word that I've been focusing on the last 2 weeks has been consistency. Consistency in a lifestyle where, or not lifestyle, but in a chaotic life, when a lot's going on, and because I'm literally working for a month and a half straight every single day. So that's very chaotic. And then, raising a kid, being there for my wife and working, it's a lot. And so consistency throughout the entire thing, whether you're getting your results or not. Last week, I had a stall. And so this is where I struggle. When I stall, I start getting irritated. I start getting frustrated. Like, why am I not losing weight? What is going on? Like, come on. Like, I've been doing so well. And so I get really, in the past, I would get really down on myself. But I kept picturing in my mind, visualizing where I wanted my body to be. So changing my mindset, changing the way I viewed, okay, consistency. Every single step that I take is a step towards the right direction. This isn't for tomorrow. This is for a year from now, how I want to feel. And I feel great right now. And I want to continue to feel better. My sleep's better. My emotions better. And I want to continue going down this road. And so in the past, my mentality is I want this to happen overnight. But the problem is, if we had things that happened overnight and it was like perfect and great, and you had a six-pack, well, then that means that you could lose it overnight as well. We're building a foundation. I'm building a foundation of my own personal health and well-being for the future. And guess what? And me and my wife have talked about this many times over. When you're watching a building being built, what takes the longest is laying the foundation. They have to level, measure, pour, because if the foundation is not right, it will tumble over. So building that foundation, meaning the positive affirmations, the I want this, I can do this, I am worth it, no pun intended, is just super important. And so while I'm going through last week and I stalled at a certain weight, there's a lot of different stressful things that were going on. So My sleep was not nearly as good. And so, but I'm like, I need to remain faithful and consistent. I am not a loser because I am not losing weight. I am doing what I need to do. I need to do the right things. I need to trust the process. My basketball coach always told, trust the process, do it.
Well, and I think there's something to be said for the fact that like what you gain in the consistency, in the showing up every day is just as important as the end result you're going after.
Mm-hmm.
So like to skip, like to have some magic pill and the next day you turned out, you know, you became what you dreamed of,
Mm-hmm.
you would actually miss all the stuff that you gain and become by way of the process, which is really, really important. So as much as it's frustrating sometimes when like changes don't happen overnight, part of it is like you actually need what you can only gain from the process.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've definitely seen the power of consistency as well in my own healing journey. And that, for instance, like getting up every morning and starting with yoga, like it's just this commitment that no matter how I slept or if I'm, you know, already anxious, already frustrated or whatever, it's like, or didn't sleep, here I am. I'm showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this. I always feel better after, you know, sort of thing, or taking your morning walk or whatever it is. Like there's definitely been a lot of things where it's like, you do not see the result in the moment that day, but then you realize like 4 months later, like I have better resources now. Like I know what to do when I'm getting stressed because I've showed up every day and realized, oh, I feel calmer after I do my yoga. So now I can incorporate that, you know, throughout the day. When I start to get stressed, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That works. I can go back to that. So yeah, consistency is really important.
And picking up what you just said, and I think is really important, is as you start to take care of your body and you start listening, you start to pick up on things. Like, for example, when I'm eating through the day, I know the best times for me to eat, for me to get the best results and to feel the best, get the best sleep, get the best quality of sleep. And these are the things you don't pick up when you're not doing healthy things. And it's weird until you experience it. You can't understand what I'm talking about. It's the mind, muscle, body, spirit connection.
It kicks up your body like intelligence for sure and makes you more intuitive and like able to intuit what your body's telling you, which I actually feel like is kind of a superpower to be able to know like when it's best for your personal person to eat or what to eat or how much sleep you need or what time you need to go to bed. Like that's super powerful if you know that about yourself so that you then can show up your best self in life because you're doing the things that make sense for you. I feel like that's really where you're most powerful.
Yeah. And so anyway, going as I'm on this journey, we always set goals, and that's one thing that, you know, I always encourage, and I know Erika encourages as well. It's very important to have goals because, you know, you're trying to get there. Now, here's the pitfall of goals, and something that I've stumbled on in the past is when you are losing weight and you're like, all right, I need to get down to 20 pounds, or you're doing the 28-day juice or whatever kind of diet that's out there that you saw on the front of a magazine, 6-day abs or whatever. The problem is you get to your goal and then you don't know what to do, or you want to have a celebration. Like I've heard so many people say, I'm just trying to fit in this dress for my wedding so that way I can eat whatever I want when the wedding comes. I'm like, that's so silly, but I was the same way. And so today I have officially lost over 20 pounds in a month and a half. And my goodness, it feels so great. So I've been thinking all day, I was like, how do I reward myself? And in the past, I would reward myself with a giant pizza, some cookies, and all that stuff. I'm like, no, how do I reward myself? What is an appropriate...
If I love myself, how do I reward myself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is an appropriate reward? And so that's retraining your reward system, because your reward system in the past led me down a spiral of, okay, I gained all the weight back because I'm like, well, I didn't really gain too much after this meal. And then you keep going and then you're discouraged because all of a sudden you're back where you started. So yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say, this goes to the principle about living in alignment. Like now you're making these changes and you are living in a way that optimizes your health. So your
Mm-hmm.
reward system has to also then come into alignment with optimal health. Like, what is a way of rewarding myself for staying consistent and for showing up every day that actually aligns with who I am becoming now?
Yeah.
It has to change because it just doesn't make sense that it would be the same.
Exactly. And so, as you're going through this, you have consistency, you have your milestones, but have your end goal. But then remember, there is actually no end goal. Because once I get down to my goal weight, I get to shape my body however I want it to. And that is what I'm going to do. But like my milestone is going to be, I'm going to go out when I hit 180 pounds, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy new pants, just one pair of new pants and a shirt, because I still am going to go down further than 180. And so to me, that isn't an appropriate reward because I'm not indulging in unhealthy foods or unhealthy practices that could, start messing with my taste buds, because I'm too early in to even consider that. If you're a recovering alcoholic, you don't reward yourself with a drink of alcohol because it's not healthy. So,
and it's not in alignment with who you're becoming.
Exactly. Yeah. And so milestones are super important. So you really need to think about how you're rewarding yourself.
Yeah. And it goes back to as well, like when we're talking about why, whether that's mental health or physical health or whatever, like it's not just for the sake of doing it. Like it's not for like the end all isn't just that you would be, I don't know, have a different body composition or whatever necessarily. It's like, why, this is how I look at it. And I heard it described really well. I think it was Danny Vega who talked about it. This whole idea of like getting yourself to like health, whether that's a more stable mental health or physical health, is really just the baseline that you can then build your dream life upon. And so it's like the idea is, I want to not be weighed down every morning by paralyzing anxiety, because that prevents me from like building my business and for like making a difference in the world. And so like the idea is to get me down to a baseline of like calm and inner peace and whatnot, so that I can then become, the person I am made to be and to carry out the purpose I'm called to. And same for my husband. It's like, what is possible when your baseline is health? Mm-hmm. Like, and then you build upon that. So like once he's at his place where he feels like my baseline now is very solid health, what then can he become? He mm-hmm. dreams of being a coach, a personal trainer kind of coach, health coach later on. And it's like, that's really important to think about that too, of like, these are almost just like arriving to a baseline that then is a platform for you to jump off and achieve like your greatest dreams.
And just to clarify, we're not saying that you don't have to start off saying, I just want to lose some weight. You can start off like that.
Yeah, you might start there.
Because like, that's where I started. I didn't know all these other things would start coming out as I was denying myself unhealthy foods. It brings up other things. So that's okay. Like if you're like, I just want to lose weight, I don't know that I haven't, it could come up and it could not. I don't know how you've stuffed it, or if you've stuffed it, or if you have no issues at all. But you've got to listen to your body. But you have to start somewhere. And that's where I started. And, and realizing food was a source of numbing and a source of comfort for me. Mm-hmm. And also, as you're going on this journey, it is so important to track your progress. I used to do calendars, marking the days, but I found a whiteboard and I put my starting weight, and then I put my weight of whatever day I weigh in. And then I'm also doing measurements.
Yeah, we're a whiteboard family. We have 3. Yes. And I've got mantras on one and mm-hmm. he has stats on another. And it's helpful. So find your way of tracking whatever works for you. Like you could be super organized or super disorganized about your tracking. But if there's anything that I feel like does help encourage you along the way, is just noting your progress. Yeah. Like even if it's just like, I was able to move through a negative emotion more quickly because I immediately could jump to positive affirmation, or I spoke out how I felt instead of stuffed it, and just like celebrate that. Like that's big.
Yeah. I mean, today's a huge celebration today. I broke the 200-pound barrier mark. I have not done this in over 6 years. It is incredible. I'm looking at the board, 198.8. And I started at 219, right? My mindset has dramatically changed from when I first started. Consistency is the main driver when you are trying to get somewhere.
And doing it for you. I think that's so important because, like, yes, other people will notice, but that's a byproduct. That's not a sustainable reason for motivation. Like, as a byproduct, I'm sure other people will notice that you seem happier or more confident or whatever, but really do it for you, because that is what's going to carry you through the tough times, is if you're like, this is for me because I want to, I don't know if prove to yourself is the right word, but I want to show myself that, like, I can overcome what I have said is impossible, like, or what I never believed I could achieve, like, is doable.
Yeah. And visualization, like, for the first time ever, I actually had this visualization of what I wanted my body to look like. And I'm like, this is actually attainable. I can do this. I wouldn't have said this a month and a half ago. So it's slow things. Slow and steady wins a race. Slow and steady is to a permanent result. And I'm not looking for 2 days from now. I'm looking for a year from now. And it's so powerful to me because now I get to model this for my son. It's crazy how well it helps in a relationship, especially when you're on the same page. The closeness, the connectivity. It's really, really encouraging on so many different levels, especially in your own personal heart, because you feel so good about yourself. You're like, my clothes are getting baggy. Wow. Like, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think just in whatever, I'll just close with this, like, whatever it is that you are on your journey with and you're working towards, you can't underestimate the power of just showing up every day to do those things that you know are going to further your health, even if you don't see immediate results. And even if it feels like it's really slow and steady kind of progress, or you can't even, you don't even see the progress. That doesn't mean it's not working, because, like, what I always like to say is sometimes, like, the shift is the process. Like, you taking the steps and going through the process is actually changing you. And that's a really valuable change. So, in addition to, continue to think about your why and why this matters and what the end goal is beyond just feeling well again. Because, like, think about it, like, when I go back to my digestive issue, it's like the end goal wasn't that I could eat food, because shouldn't everybody be able to eat food? Like, that's so fundamental. If my goal for health was simply being able to eat food, I would be like, shoot higher. Like, that's not, it was that, like, I couldn't live my life. I couldn't dream. I was shut down. I couldn't be creative. I couldn't, those are the kinds of things, like, just make sure you're not shooting too low, I would say, as well. Like, think about, if you could do anything and make any impact in the world and do anything with your life, what would it be? And, like, what are the things holding you back? And let that big dream or goal be your motivation to do those little things every day and show up, like, to your yoga mat, even if you don't feel like it, or to, your clean eating or whatever, because I guess that's just where I would end it.
Yeah. Well, there's one more thing that I spoke with someone today who was doing a diet, and he's like, I fell off the wagon and completely abandoned it. Okay, if you fall or if you stumble, just let it be a stumble and get back up and get back on it. Just because you messed up one time does not mean you undid everything you just did. So push through that and get back up. Surround yourself with people that will, grab your arm and be like, are you all right? Let's get up and go. Because you're not a failure.
Yeah, like, if you think about yourself walking on a path, like, you actually get to decide how deep that ditch is that you fell in. Like, you get to choose if it was a tiny little pothole or if it was, like, a really, really deep rut. Like, you actually get to decide when you say you fell off that wagon or you tripped, and it's like, you get to decide how fatal that is. Like it's up to you to decide how fatal it is. That can just be a little like, whoop, little bump in the step, or it can be a major roadblock. And that's up to you. Like, you really have the power to decide that. So don't let it be a major roadblock. Like you can choose it to be just a tiny little bump, little rock.
And that all goes back to your want. Do you want it or not?
Yeah.
It can't be a need. It needs to be a want.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to check out my Instagram, it's the Clean Keto Warrior on Instagram. We'll probably put a link in the show notes. My camera doesn't work all that well, so my videos have not been posting as I would like them to. So I would try and get stuff up there. I just posted a picture from 7 years ago when I was 250 pounds. And it just kind of talks about where I was a little bit and, the emotional journey to where I am now. And it's a really cool journey. So I encourage you guys to come follow me. And once I get a new phone, I'll be posting a lot more stuff. Also, we want to hear from you guys. What do you guys want to hear us talk about or hear Erika talk about? Just let us know. Also, if you want to support the podcast, how do you do that?
Yeah, so there'll be a link in the show notes, and feel free, like Ben said, to reach out to either of us if you have questions or comments or just need encouragement along the journey. So thanks, guys. I'm so glad you tuned in to the Worth Wellness podcast today. If you want to support our efforts to continue to bring great content to you week after week, please leave us a review and subscribe to the channel. You can also directly support the show following the link in the notes below. You can find me on Instagram, Worth Wellness by Erika, or if you want individualized support on your personal health journey, you can send me an email, worthwellness@gmail.com, and I would love to connect with you. All right, it's been a pleasure, friends. Stay well, live inspired, and keep learning.